One of the things we do back quarterly, we give you guys just a financial update. We usually do bigger updates when it comes to, halfway through the year, definitely at the end of the year. But we also like to give you guys quarterly updates because it's really good. Some of you guys ask questions, how are we doing? And really, the reason we talk about money is for two reasons. One is because we believe that money reflects where our hearts are. And Jesus made that really, really clear. And so it's a time for us to even align our own lives and go, Jesus, where am I trusting you? With my resources, and God, how can I use that to glorify you, worship you? And the second reason is Jesus, we want to reach as many people as possible. We want to disciple and care for one another as the best that we can. And so how are we taking what God has given to us and maximizing that for the most impact in our church, with each other, and our community, and globally as well too. So we want to give you guys kind of a quick update. And Stacy, why don't you start us off, and you can walk us through, and I'll just kind of interject along the way.
Great. Well, first of all, there is quite a few people who make up the finance team, and I really want to just appreciate all of them very much. Mike happens to be one of the people on the team, and then we have Jake Schween, and we have Jeff Chase, our lead elder, and then I have two administrators. I just added a second person to my team, and it's so exciting to have a little bit of relief and a little bit of help. And so we've been doing a little bit of training this last month, and so it's been a little bit slower, but we have the audit next week, so we are raring to go, you guys. So exciting. And you know what? Actually, it's October, and it's the second October, the Sunday of the month. And did you know that today is Pastor Appreciation Day?
I did not know that. Thank you. You are so sneaky. You are so sneaky. Thank you for that. That's very sweet and kind of you guys.
So the whole month is really, it's kind of ministry appreciation, but they highlight the second Sunday of the month as being Pastor Appreciation Month. And I know Mike does so many things, and our entire staff, the ministry that they do every single day. If there is something that is on your heart that you want to bless them, appreciate them, pray for them, send them notes, encouragement, I would really encourage you guys to do that this month. They could always use some uplifting words.
In fact, I'm going to redirect that. If you're staff, would you stand right now? If you're staff at any level, baristas included, anybody here, would you guys stand? Put your hand up in the back. I see you guys in the back.
Jake.
Can we James. Our elder team is here. I see Jeff and Sandy. I know Ken and Sue are here. I think others are coming second service. I know that I'm trying to see in the lights. If there's any other elders and their wives, would you guys put your hand as well too? Would you guys? I know some of you guys split between. Can we just say thank you to our elder team as well? Couldn't do it without them.
I know, I pivoted a little bit, but I had to. All right, so we are in our first quarter of our fiscal year, and our fiscal year runs July through June. And we operate with a one fund, and what that is we kind of take all the offerings and tithes that come in, and we put it in one fund, and we operate out of that. And I know some churches have multiple funds, but the majority of our funds come through the one fund. We do have some benevolence and some other kind of event stuff, but for the majority of our income, it all comes into one fund. So our budget for the 24-25 fiscal year is just under $4 million, which we announced that in July to you guys. We were up here. We shared about the impact of the last year. And so how are we doing this year so far, the first quarter? So our one fund giving is about $788,000 with some other income of about $65,000. So we've received $853,282.
Which is huge. That's grateful for that. That's a huge praise. Thank you.
And a lot of you are interested, how many people help contribute to that? And so we have 473 giving households. It's not just people, but it's households that have given towards that 853,000 number. And then we really wanted to highlight just the people that give monthly. There's about 58% of you that give on a monthly basis. That doesn't mean that there's not recurring that's once a quarter or once a year, but we really wanted to highlight those that gave monthly. And that actually contributes to about 58% of what we received this first quarter as well. So it was interesting that 58% are monthly and 58% was what we received overall. And so how have we been doing with expenses and income? So I will say that we have received our income of about $853,000, and we have spent a little bit more than that this first quarter. We are a little bit behind with $80,000. However, I was really curious what things were like before. And our first quarter is always through the summer, and our summer is always our leanest month. And so our first quarter is our leanest month, and our second quarter is by far the heaviest month when it comes to donations and offerings, and that's just based on the calendar year, right? In the summer, a lot of you guys are out and about, and in the fall time and in the winter, when it comes down to November and December, there's a lot of tax-deductible gifts that people are looking to do. And so last year, quarter one in 2023, we received a little less income and we spent a lot more in expenses, and we were behind a lot more than we are now. And for me, I see this as really, really positive. I see us moving in the right direction. Yes, I do see a downfall, I see a shortfall. However, we made it. We made it.
Yeah.
God blessed us, and we made it through last year, and we were like right at our budget last year. So I am super hopeful and positive.
And that's the one thing that I was, when Stacy was breaking these numbers down with us, and we even talking about it as an elder team this Friday, is just like looking at growth trends. That's the thing that we always want to look towards is, are we growing? And there's a few things I'll wrap up with us in the end, kind of challenge us, but there's some encouragement news in it. So we're very aware of the pieces that we want to make sure that we see those things, that we are focused on them, we understand where we're at, but we're also looking at those other positive trends, and we just want to see things keep moving in that direction. And I'll wrap it with some fun challenges here at the end too.
Yeah, so how does the money get spent? We kind of break it out in a dollar bill for you guys, and we break it into 4 different categories. So we have our kids, and we have our ardent, we have our adult, and then we have our justice and compassion areas. And you'll see every dollar that comes in, that is sort of how it goes out, if you kind of wanted to look at it from that angle. And I really wanted to park on Heart of the City. Heart of the City is growing tremendously, growing in the asks, the needs, and how many people we are helping. So I will say the first quarter of this year versus the first quarter of last year, we have tripled the amount of people that have been helped, and we have doubled the amount of income we have provided. That does not include the resources, that just includes how they are growing and growing and growing. I mean, there's almost 100 families per month that are coming through Heart of the City. And that's just, it's tremendous.
Well, that's the vision. That was what God put on our heart, and that's what we created, was that how do we be a church, not just for ourselves, because a lot of Heart of the City way that we care for benevolence in our church is through Heart of the City. So if you're here and you're part of Grace Chapel, you know, because the Bible even talks about very clearly, like, taking care of one another. In fact, I could even make the case, some scripture speaks to making sure that we care for one another even before we care for others. And that really means that there's both hands going on, that we want to care for everyone here at Grace that is going, hey, I have struggles, I have needs. Can Heart of the City help me? Absolutely. But it's also our outreach center outwardly. And we know we're a huge asset to this community. Many of us have sat in city council meetings. We've sat with meetings with mayors and just the appreciation they have for us. And so that scope of growth that we're seeing shows like really what God put on our heart is making a huge impact. And so I just want to say thank you to everybody who's really getting behind this, because there's more needs out there that we believe that we can be Jesus to a lot of people when we step in, because what Heart of the City does, we don't just say, hey, here's resources to help you. We do, but ultimately we would love to help them experience life in Christ. And so we really keep that the focus of everything that we do.
Yes, so there's just a couple more things. So I think growth-wise, last quarter, we have grown in this room, and just this room, over 100 people every Sunday on average. So last year, we were a little bit lighter, and we are continuing to grow, and that is reflected in so many different areas, as Mike was just talking about. And really, our primary goal here is just 100% participation. And Mike did a really good job of identifying some motivations to give. And I don't know if you want to just spend a couple of minutes just going over those.
Yeah, so last year I put together just kind of everybody, when we look at giving, Scripture just speaks to the beauty and the partnership. What God does in our own lives through giving, what God does through the giving, how it impacts other people. And so I wrote down just 7 things, this was last year, on what are some motivations for us and why we partner with God with our resources. Number 1 is this: because love gives. Love is, when we look at the cross and the generosity of what Jesus did, giving his life for us. When you see love, love is expressed through sacrifice. Love gives. Love is selfless. And so one of the reasons we give with our money is to say it's how we love one another. It's how we love the world that we're living in. Number 2 is this: is Jesus endorses radical generosity. And I love that phrase, radical generosity, because when you look at times in Scripture, it's like, doesn't make sense by the world's standards. It's like, wait, I don't understand why you would be so giving in that way, and watching God do something with that. Number 3 is this: is seeking first the kingdom. And so when we say, Jesus, we are pursuing, we're investing our resources first into your kingdom before anything else. That's the idea of maybe for some of you tithing and offerings is, Jesus, we are giving you first your kingdom, and we're trusting you with the other resources for this world. Number 4, again, is it's more from moving us from consuming to contributing. And then the other part of this, we're all called to be stewards of what God's given to us. And generosity, it brings freedom to other people, brings freedom to ourselves. When you are generous, it's amazing how it unlocks the shackles of even worry sometimes. Being generous is a way that frees us up from the worry of being in control, because you're trusting God with all of that. And the last one here, it's a way we worship. So maybe there's one of those 7 reasons that grabbed you today that says, you know what, I want to be here, and I want to be a contributor here. And I know oftentimes people come up to me and they say, Mike, I don't have very much. Does it matter? It matters between you and the Lord. It matters in your own faith journey. Like the little boy that had the loaves and fishes. How many of you say it mattered? It mattered. And sometimes we look at a different way of saying what matters and what doesn't. And God says, whatever you give to me, it always matters. And watch what I'll do with whether you give me a lot or a little. I'll do something in your own heart, and I'll definitely do something bigger. So just pray and hope that you would take that to your own heart and say, God, I want to be in, I want to contribute something, whatever that might look like, and lots of motivators here for that.
Yeah, so as always, if you guys have questions about budget or anything like that, feel free to reach out. There's an email address there. And then obviously there are several ways that you can give and continue to give, however you feel comfortable doing that. And if there's any problems with that, please feel free to come and talk to me as well.
Yeah. So one more thing we're going to talk about. This is the last thing before we get you to stand and say hi to each other. This has been Connect Month. As you can tell, like as we're growing, one of the things you'll hear me say, the bigger we get, the smaller we got to get. And so we've been wanting everyone to get connected in a cohort, discipleship groups, and we've got all kinds of things happening. All that's on the app. But one of the things that we've been asking is you guys to get into cohorts, and we're launching in the fall right now with a lot of the men is around a book called Vintage Masculinity. You've heard me talk about that. Many of you are excited about that. There's cohorts to get involved in. You can start your own. And then later in January, we're going to have a resource for the ladies. And so if you're here and you want to get that book, Vintage Masculinity, you'll have an opportunity. Would you want to walk us through how that happens?
Yeah, I would love to. Okay, so first of all, I know that it's talking about masculinity, right? So women, I would encourage you to read it. I have read it like 4 times, and I've read it 4 times because I helped edit some of it. So, but it really is, I would encourage you, like if your spouse or you want to gift it to someone, read it. There is a lot of really good information. Again, Mike's been gathering this stuff for 30-ish years, and really, really talks about some of the things that men struggle with some of the things that they're able to defeat. And I really was blessed and encouraged by reading this. So please feel free. It's not just a book for men, and it's not just a devotional for men. We really can take some information and help support our men based on what you're reading. So if you are interested in purchasing this, there are a couple of ways to do this today. So today, there is this QR code, and if you go up and you scan it, it's going to take you to a checkout that you can do online right in your seat. And you purchase it, and then there's going to be a receipt that comes out. And there's going to be a bunch of us that are going to be, did you guys notice the green truck sitting in by the front? So that's going to be filled with vintage masculinity books after service. And if you are not comfortable doing it digitally, so scan the QR code, purchase it. That is going to be the fastest and quickest way to get your book and get out so you don't have to worry about the masses. However, there are a lot of people that do not prefer to purchase things online. And so we do have, if you go into the lobby, there's going to be 2 lines. There's going to be a cash and a card line. And you can get in line and you can purchase it from someone physically and they will give you a book that way as well. If by some chance you purchased it this weekend through the email that went out on Friday, just bring your receipt, just show it on your phone over to me. I will be outside by the truck, and I am going to be the one that is handing out all the people who have prepaid for the book. So if you want to purchase it, go into the lobby, get in line, and then you will get it that way. And if you've purchased it through the QR code or online, just have your receipt handy and show it to me, and we will give you your book.
That's good. That's good. That's great. Well, hey, with that being said, will you guys just stand, turn, hide, and say good morning, whatever you need to do, hug, greet each other, all that kind of stuff?